Welcome, everybody. I'm Scott Hill from FlightClubICT.com, and we are here for a special event this evening, a special tasting, or maybe better described as a special reveal, as we've been in to a 10-bottle blind sampling of Four Roses, and we're here to do our reveal tonight. Before we get into the details of that, let me introduce here who I'm here with. Start down here in the corner with Rainier. Rainier, say hello.
Hey, hi there. So my name is Rainier Eickhout. I am the store manager of Auburn Wine and Spirits, a slightly newer store where I'm a certified whiskey master and store manager. We're located at Central and Rock, and I'm very happy to be here.
Rainier's been a good friend of ours of drinking whiskey over the past few years, and his store Auburn's been good to us as well. So thank you for joining us here. And then we've got Jamie, and Jamie, I'm going to let you introduce yourself in a moment. But the reason Jamie's here, not because he's a good whiskey buddy, but because he's got a lot of Four Roses. So Jamie, say hello.
Yeah, Jamie Ballman, Flight Club ICT. This one's been a long time coming. We probably should have got this to everyone a long time ago. What was it, 6 months ago probably that we did all this stuff. I am your info guy tonight. I don't know if Scott has anything else he wants to say before we really get going into it. I'll offer that to him before we do.
No, let's get into this. We've got plenty to cover tonight. So let's get in, talk a little bit about Four Roses generally, and then lead into how we 6 months ago put this sampling together.
Okay, so for anybody that is not familiar with Four Roses, some general information. They are currently owned by Kirin. Before that, they were owned by Diageo, and before that, they were part of the Seagram's distillery, the Seagram's brand. And at that point in time, they made lots of stuff for Seagram's blended whiskey. At a certain point, they kind of fell off and made some terrible whiskey, and they'll blatantly tell you that. Made some terrible whiskey, and they had a master distiller come in who was working for Seagram's, and came in, Jim Rutledge, who kind of saved the whole brand. He told everybody that he got samples from Seagram's, which is currently the MGP distillery, but at that time they were one company. He'd get samples from them and say, if we can't make whiskey that's at least this good, then we just don't need to even be doing it. And through that thought process, he kind of changed and turned around Four Roses and made it what it is today. Most of what we are drinking, all of what we're drinking, as far as I know, would be stuff that Jim Rutledge put in the barrel. Their current master distiller is Elliott, and he shouldn't be taken lightly. He has put out 3 lovely special releases. One of them got Whiskey of the Year by many, many people, the Al Young special release. But that's kind of the long and the short of all that stuff. Some of the interesting stuff with as far as the Seagram's and MGP, they did share yeast. The MGP yeast is the V. We'll be talking more about the yeast here in a minute, but yeah, that's that. As far as the history of it, if you want to know more, there was a book written by their ambassador, Al Young. You can easily Google that and find that out. But so they have two mash bills, and what we're doing are the single barrel selects. They've got their small batch, their yellow label, and their single barrel, and then their single barrel select. They have 10 different products, 10 different, what's my word here for this?
Recipes.
10 different recipes. So 2 mash bills, both of them are high rye. One of them's 20% rye, one of them's 35% rye. The one that's 20% rye is 75% corn and 5% barley. The one that's 35% rye is 60% corn and 5% barley. Then they have 5 different unique yeasts, and that's kind of what our game is tonight, is to try to guess what those are, they're K, Q, O, F, and V. The K is supposed to be rich in spiciness. The Q is supposed to be floral, like acacia or rose petal, bananas, still spicy. The O is supposed to be slightly fruity, red berries. The F is minty, fruity, spicy, often described as herbal. The V is delicate fruit, yet also spicy and creamy. So that's
now, Jamie, that's all information that's published by Four Roses, readily available. We've got some of that same information on our webpage. You can go out and find sort of that cheat sheet of what all the recipes are and general tasting notes.
It's also on these hang tags that come on the single barrel private selection bottles. So if you see, I think all of us highly recommend, if you see a single barrel select, if you like Four Roses, you should give it a whirl. It is worth a little bit of uptick in price. The last bit, as far as the 10 different strains, 10 different recipes go, there's one in particular that goes into their shelf single barrel. It is the OBSD. The two
That's this bottle. That's this bottle right here.
Okay.
You can find that on any shelf.
In the small batch, if you can show them that one.
Yeah, I got that one here as well.
That is both B and E in the O's and K's. And then in the yellow label.
Yellow label, which is now kind of a creamy label, but yeah, it's still yellow label.
That has all 10 recipes. And I've heard many times that they often dump 20+ year age stock in that. It is a very good bourbon. It should not be taken lightly for its price point. Other than that, the only other thing I can say is they, just like all the other distilleries lately, they have been boosting production. They have 2 locations. One is their distillery, one is their bottling plant at Cox Creek, and the Lawrenceburg is their distillery. They've added a whole nother still, more fermenters, another doubler, and the Cox Creek is adding new bottling lines. So hopefully they can keep up with things. Other than that, I think we're probably going to get into our 10 blind samples and get a whole bunch of them wrong.
Yeah, we're prepared to be humbled, and we kind of expected that going in. I mean, I'll speak for myself for a second. You know, I can say up until this experiment, I don't even think I've tried all 10 recipes. I tried several of them, but for the most part, we rely upon these tasting notes from Four Roses in which to kind of help us identify the characteristics of the particular yeasts and the mash bill. Jamie, I know a lot of these bottles came from you. You have all 10 recipes, but even still, I don't know that you would consider yourself the expert on Four Roses. Is that fair?
I'm a huge Four Roses fan. I am a member of their Mellow Moments Club, and actually, which is kind of appropriate this morning, I got a package from them that is a cocktail strainer. So if you end up being a Four Roses fan, I recommend you join that as well. But no,
this commercial break brought to you by Four Roses. Thank you, Jamie.
Well, yeah. You can certainly send us some free samples and make us give us some. We'll put a commercial in all of our live reviews for you if you'll send us some samples.
Or if we can get a barrel for Kansas, that would be fantastic. Shout out to Kent, if you're listening. That'd be awesome. Please, we need a barrel in Kansas. Let's make it happen.
Any help we can get there would be really helpful. Rainier, what's been your general experience with Four Roses? I think you're kind of in the same boat as I am, maybe.
Actually, I've had a very interesting experience with Four Roses. I totally forgot that it was the very first bourbon I've ever had, because I asked my mom to check the very first bottle of bourbon, and the only bottle of bourbon that I had back home is still like in a little pantry off to the side, which is an old European liter bottle or 70 centiliter bottle of Four Roses bourbon, yellow label. that I actually liked, and I totally forgot that because I came to America kind of being like, I've never not really had bourbon. And on my journey of, I like Scotch. Long story. I got to try Four Roses small batch, and I really had this moment of like, oh damn, I didn't know it could be like this. This is phenomenal. And then of course with the help of Mr. Jamie, I slid down the Four Roses slippery slope because in Colorado I picked up a couple of the, I think maybe some of the recipes in here too. I know I picked up a couple of his bottles. So, and when he was like, "Oh, it's so good," I was like, "All right, I gotta try some of this stuff." And yeah, now I'm here and liking to play musical yeasts.
What I just heard from Rainier is that he grew up drinking Four Roses, so I'm expecting 10 out of 10 here on this this blind sampling.
Yep. Otherwise, I'm just packing my bags.
All right. Well, let's just get into it. Jamie, anything else? How about describe very briefly what we did 6 months ago? Got together. We did a kind of a double blind. Share that real quick.
Well, before I do that, I did forget one more thing. So tonight we are going to be talking OBSO, OQ, or OBSQ, OESQ. I did not say the O and the S are always the same. The O means it was produced at Four Roses Distillery, and the S just simply means that it is straight whiskey. But yeah, so we got together. Scott made a nice chart of the bottles that we had and decided who was going to contribute what. Some of us ended up contributing more.
Thank you, Jamie.
Contributed more and ended up bringing a whole bunch of bottles for everybody. But yeah, we did it double blind. Scott has our decoder ring, as so to speak. So after we go through,
double blind here. We got cheat sheets here, so no one. We pulled these out about 30 minutes ago before we got started tonight.
So that's about it. Without further ado, I think we're starting with A.
Yeah, let's start with A, and I've poured a small sample of A. We're not going to do our tasting notes live, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick one of us, kind of work your way through your tasting notes, and then tell us what you ultimately guessed. The other two of us won't necessarily read through all of our notes, but we'll kind of give our critique and what our guess was, and then we'll reveal what it actually is, and then we'll talk about it. So, Jamie, let's start with you on sample A. Why don't you give us some tasting notes?
So on the nose of this, I got fresh oak barrel, like one that was just crafted. It's mild but really nice. I got a lot of clove on this one and a minerally salt. I put flavor POW for the palate. Oak, some nice rye flavor. Strawberry nerds or fun dip sticks. It was very sugary. All around solid and balanced. I've got a long finish with a little acidity to knock it down a peg. I ended up guessing OBSV for its smoothness. It was easy sipping, easy sniffing whiskey. Yeah, I ranked this one relatively high.
And we'll come back to that maybe as we're wrapping up each of the samples, kind of how we placed them. But you ultimately came down with OBSV. Rainier, give us some quick overview of your notes and then your ultimate guess.
On A?
On A, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So interesting. I recognize a couple of words here. I totally, to me, A was light. I got lots of fruit. I kind of had more of an orange peel on the nose. It smells delicious, lots of fruit. And on the palate, I definitely got some peach, like fleshy stone fruit, like that bite acidity in the middle. Grainy spices, wood, pepper towards the finish. Then it comes a little bit fuller. There's some caramel and then a very long finish, which is exactly what I got too. And that acidity is like a nice reset. And it was my notes originally were like OBS something. And I'm on board with what Jamie's saying there.
Yeah, I got some of that stone fruit, some spice, and then a strong kind of herbal note at the end of the nose. I had initially, because of all that, kind of gone with the OBSV. But as I worked my way through the palette, I got some apricot. You mentioned peach, I think. Some sweet graham cracker, some plum and chocolate and fruit on the finish, with kind of a lingering baking and rye spice. I ultimately guessed OBSK as my guess here on sample A. So with sample A, let's go ahead and do the reveal. A is number 7, and 7 is OBSK.
Wow. Nicely
Well.
done.
All right. That makes me 1 for 1. Let's go ahead and cut here. We're going to end this program.
Well, can we go to N real quick then?
What do you guys think? I mean, Jamie, you start out with you really liked it, some notes, some scores. What do you think?
I put nose 4 to 4.5, which on our scale is very strong. If you're watching this, I think you know our scale. I put palate as 4.5, and I dropped the finish down a tick to 3.5 with that acidity that followed it.
I gave it an overall score of a 3 out of 5. I was satisfied with it. I think I may have been a little bit overly harsh on some of these. I really liked all of them, so I kind of used a little bit more of the scale. This one was a little bit middle of the road for Four Roses for me. I think the rye spice felt a little bit out of balance to me a little bit, and that's why I probably marked it down to a 3 out of 5. Rainier, kind of, what are your observations? For us on our scale, 3 is satisfied, 3 is right down the middle, 3 is a good job, 5 gets really, really high. That's kind of a home run. 1's pretty disappointing.
Yeah, the interesting part here, I found it nice. I'm still interested because looking at this too, the OBSK is listed as where'd you go? Rich in spiciness and full body, where both me and Jamie were really picking up on it being a little bit lighter. So I find that interesting. I enjoyed it though. I would say, given that scale, 3.5, I'd say.
Now the age on this one, so everyone knows out there, is 9 years, 8 months. So this isn't exceptionally old, but it's not one of the real young ones that seem to be coming out now in the 8-year range.
Right.
It was a Colorado, probably not a store pick.
Yeah, a distributor pick that a certain fantastic Dutchman smuggled.
All right. Let's go to B now. Rainier, we'll start with you on B if you're ready to go with some notes and a guess on B.
Okay, so going from, especially now, from A, but I went in a different order because I'm weird. But going from A to this, just the nose alone, it's a lot more. There's a lot more wood. There's a lot more oak. I was really getting fresh cut wood or even green wood, which is kind of a marker for me when I'm like, the rye's really jumping out at me. And then there's a lot more kind of citrus and grass happening in the background. And then when you take that first sip, it's a little bit light on the entry, but then you really get this like full widening spice on the palate. Lots of fruit. And to me, I was saying this is definitely a little bit higher ABV on there as well. But I was very intrigued by this. Not necessarily one of my favorites, but Four Roses does some cool things.
And what was your guess then on sample B?
I went back and forth a lot on that, and I ended up with OBSF, mainly because of the green note, the mint really being a marker for me there.
All right, Jamie, your rebuttal.
I also called this one OBSF. I get lots of rye on the nose. I called it rye and rye bread, rye spice, spearmint on the palate. I call it salted, rye again, rye spice, and then vegetal. I ranked this one just 3. I just gave it an overall of 3. It seemed maybe a little too old for, maybe a little out of balance.
Well, what I picked up on the nose was similar to what Rainier was describing. I got that oak. I got some vanilla cream on this one with a little bit of caramel. I got that vanilla cream again on the palate with some citrus, some red grapes, baking spice, and some herbal spice. And then the finish I described as lingering creamy vanilla and caramel, some light chocolate, some citrus. I guessed OESV on this one, and I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. I thought this one was pretty enjoyable. All right, so I guess I'm the reveal guy, aren't I? So this is sample B, which is 8, and number 8 is OBSV. Did anybody get that one?
No.
Nope. We got close.
Who would we describe as got the closest?
You got the yeast. Yeah.
All right. Well, we won't play that. We won't keep playing that game. That'll get old real fast. I thought that was pretty good. I enjoyed that one. What's the age on that one? Do we know? OESV.
Oh,
I'm
was
sorry,
it?
OBSV. 9 year, 5 months. This is my bottle from Gomer's. Yep, I got that one right here. 54.2%. Gomer's out of Kansas City.
At least I picked up on the high ABV, I guess.
Yeah. All right. Well, we ready to move on to C?
Sure.
All right. I got to pour my C real quick. Jamie, are you ready to go ahead with C? You want to go some notes on C?
Yeah, sure. This one got, well, I'll just give you my scores first and foremost. On the nose, I put 3.5 to 4. On the palate, I put 4.5. On the finish, I put 4. I put noses lower proof, rye spice. With my initial notes, since I went through some of these twice, I put beautiful nose, brown sugar, stone fruit. On the palate, all I put was there's a tannic oak. I felt like it was older. On the finish, I got some cigarette smoke, slightly off balanced. And I guessed OESD.
All right, I'm going to go in with mine, and then Rainier, I'll let you follow. The nose I said was pretty light. I got some like rose floral notes, some mint herbal notes, some faint butterscotch, and then some like Chardonnay wine fruitiness. I got some rose stem, some vanilla, brown sugar, light rye spice on the palate, a little bit floral, grassy on the finish, some brown sugar, and some baking spice. I guess this was OBSQ. And I think I think the floral is what really grabbed me on this one. And I really picked up on a lot of floral notes on this. Rainier?
So that's kind of interesting versus what I'm hearing right now. But I initially, in my notes, this may have been a long night when I tried this one. I had big spicy wood, kitchen spices, and it was. I do agree. It is still light as well on the nose. There's quite some caramel to me. A lot of acidity on the palate, mid palate, and there's a little bit of green in there. I could see this kind of like potpourri, kind of like dried flower petals, lavender, whatever you want to call it, or like super perfumey berries or grapes. You were saying Chardonnay. I would say if we're gonna go wine, Viognier, which is kind of like a super floral, kind of spicy wine. Anyway, and there's this like green wet grass or kind of like a hay thing going on too at the end for me. But it is interesting.
I like this one. I gave this one a 4 out of 5. I really liked that green note on this. To me, it was like a green rose stem kind of note on it. I really liked it. Rainier, what did you think of it overall?
I did. Initially, I was very torn by this, but the complexity of this, the multitude of layers and different flavors that I was getting out of this, because I tried this multiple times, as my notes indicate. And enjoyment factor, I'd be with you. I'd still go 3.5, probably, if you guys do halves.
We do.
Then okay, then yeah, 3.5 still. It's not my white horse, but it's close.
And
All right,
got
so C.
OESF.
OESF. All right, so reveal C is 6, and number 6 is OESO. 8 years, 6 months. Jamie, this is your bottle.
Nobody got it right.
OESO.
Well, time to pack up.
Yeah, that surprised me. I still get a lot of floral notes on this, a lot of green notes. Maybe that's just from the youth on this one, the 8 years, 6 months. It may not have had time to quite develop into what their typical oak profile is, or at least that's how I'm picking it up.
I'm reading because for reference, I still think that it's a good indicator, but it definitely isn't a measuring stick, because the OESO here says fruity, like red berries and medium body, but I'm like, with what we've been describing, that's completely not what we were getting, and age, I think, was involved.
Right.
Well, barrel influence and position in the rick house and all that stuff plays a major part. And yeast is important, but yeah. I mean, like you said, it's a guidance, and that's why this is so tough.
All right, so we're 0 for on that one. Am I right?
That's right.
All right, so let's move on to D. Let's move on with this humiliation. I'm going to lead off on D, and then we'll go Rainier and then Jamie. I said on the nose, I got very herbal, grass, earth, light vanilla, root beer, sawdust, caramel chews, cherry, raspberry, plum. And then this one did have a little bit of ethanol that dissipated with a little bit of time in the glass. It really improved. A pretty complex nose. On the palate, I said rye spice, fresh grass, mint, basil, thyme, vanilla, caramel syrup. On the finish, I got mint, caramel, vanilla. It's creamy like an ice cream on the finish. This one really seemed very high rye. I'd have pegged this one for like a 95.5 rye. Just very, very rye forward, herbal forward, very long finish. I guessed OESF on this one, and I gave this one my highest scores. It's got a 4.5 out of 5. I loved this one.
So I was very taken by D as well. It started my downfall into taking way too many notes. So on the nose here, I got this, and I'm still getting it. It's like it's a little bit spicy, but it's like a green candy. I can't quite put my finger on it. Something sour or something like Jolly Ranchery kind of. And there's like a hay and smoke, like think walking into a barn that may or may not be on fire. It's sweet but grassy, and there's a lot of top notes to me. There's a lot of high flavors and a little bit of low earth kind of playing in there as well. There might be some citrus. I really got this like heather, lavender, kind of like a fresher potpourri. There's this big impact up front, but to me, it finishes long, but kind of weak. It smells like caramel sweetness, but I'm not finding it on the palate. That was my only issue with it, but I would give this a 4, absolutely.
So on that one, I get more of the same on those. On the nose, I get soft, dusty oak, cinnamon, Reese's Pieces. You were talking about smoke. I have cigarette smoke on there. Vanilla on the palate, I got vanilla. There's a taste on the palate I put as 4 roses. There's a typical 4 roses profile, and if you tasting through any of these, it's right away it's 4 roses, but this one especially. I put creamy as well on this one, rye spice, oak. I gave this a 4 to 4.5. I put strong on my score, so I think we're all right there on this.
And what was your guess?
I called this OBSK, and since we already named that one, I know I'm wrong, which is fun.
All right, this is sample D, which is 5, and 5 is OESK. 8-year, 9-month. This is a bottle of mine. Let me find it here. OESK.
Well, I got A yeast right.
8 years, 9 months. The Cask Strength Society. I think this one was out of, Jamie, where do we order this one? A Bourbon Scotch Beer website, maybe?
Yeah.
That's a solid bottle.
What's the ABV?
58.6. This one's pretty high.
Wow.
I thought that one was terrific. So even though I got that one wrong, I quite enjoyed that one.
Well, that makes
Any
me
other comments on D?
it makes me happy because I've always thought I really liked the K's. So turns out that's still more of the same.
All right, so we are moving on now to E. Rainier, you want to lead off on E?
Yes, sir. Let me find my notes that are not in order. There we go. Okay, so E, that was actually one of the first ones I think that I had. And it's very mild to me. It was mild on the nose, mild on the palate first, but then it really became creamy, lots of butterscotch. I still got this like grassy, wet hay thing going on again. That kind of that's funny. I was kind of agreeing with that too. There's like a Four Roses spices or spicy thing going on. Flowers, but this time I was thinking more like white flowers, like chamomile, like daisies. Maybe a little bit of banana and tropical fruit that I had going on, and like a mild leathery undertone going underneath all of it. I very much enjoyed this one because it's one of the first ones I had, and I was like, oh yeah, this is gonna be fun. So.
And what's your guess on this one?
OE, and then I can't remember what I read.
OESQ, same as you, so you should follow him.
Yeah, well, Rainier, your note, I'm reading through my notes as you're reading through yours, and we are really on this one. I said very soft. It's caramel, some floral perfume, potpourri kind of on the nose with a little vanilla bean on the end. More of those same notes, caramel, vanilla, potpourri, rich vanilla bean on the palate. Vanilla, caramel, oak, light fruit. I'm definitely getting that banana you just described and a bit more perfume on the finish. I guessed OESQ on this one as well. I like this one. I gave this one a 3.5. Jamie?
On the nose, I've got soft nose, creamy vanilla pudding, dark chocolate, candy corn, dark oak, Butterfinger. This one is ever changing. You let it sit there, and every time you come back to it, you can get another note out of it. Palette, I got rye spice, candy corn, buttered popcorn, rock candy, like the sugar stick that like, I don't know if you ever made one. You stick it in a jar with a bunch of sugar, and then it eventually like a stick in there, and that type of sugar. Finish, buttered popcorn. I called this one OBSO. I called it a 4.5, 3.5, 3.5, 3.5 overall. So I think we're all right there with the 3.5.
All right, for the reveal, E is 2, and 2 is OESV. Were you right?
A little dagger in the heart.
No one's right?
No one's right.
We have the mash bill.
Man, this is a 9-year, 8 months bourbon Scotch beer. This is my bottle. OESV. 9 years, 8 months, 54.7% bourbon Scotch beer. Let's see. There we go. I'm impressed with that one. I thought that one was good. I was happy with it. And I don't know if we want to share this, but these bottles we got from Bourbon Scotch Beer were crazy cheap, weren't they, Jamie?
Yeah, what, $50, but maybe less.
Yeah, it was. We picked up everything that they had to offer. So good job by them. What's that?
Some of them are still available.
Yeah, I'd recommend. I mean, we're giving you notes on some of them, and they're getting some of our higher scores. So sample F. Let's move on. All right, I'll lead off here on sample F again. All right, I said on the nose, I got kind of a punchy rye and pepper spice, some cherry fruit, heavy grape soda, apple skin, butterscotch, old shoe. This one really felt like one of the older ones in the bunch from the nose. On the palate, I said sharp rye spice, apple, grape soda, plum, butterscotch, pepper. On the finish, I got creamy vanilla and rye spice, herbal, apple cider, pepper. It's a bit dry and tannic on the end, and it felt Christmassy. I'm not sure why I said that, but it felt Christmassy. I guess this was OESO. I gave this a 4 to 4.5. And those who know me know I love Wild Turkey. This one reminded me a lot of Wild Turkey, maybe even a Wild Turkey rye. Jamie.
So I've got the nose Wow, which I rated the nose a 4.5 on this one. There's no off-putting notes on this. It's nice, solid oak, dust. I think floral. The palate, I've got a harsh note like a tannic oak. I thought this was an older bottle. I called the palate 3.5. I called the finish a 4. I said the finish brings balance to this one in the grand scheme of it. Overall, a 4. I thought.
What was your guess? Say that one more time.
I thought it was an OBSQ.
OBSQ. All right, Rainier.
Okay, so this one too, I was very taken by the nose. In my notes, I initially said it smells like high alcohol, heavy spice, light in body when I tried it. And then I still don't know why I wrote this sentence, but I said lots of spice that builds up like you just poured the wrong sauce and you think it's just ketchup. It develops on the finish to this caramel and dry wood that stays with you for a while. You really get these tannins that kind of sink into the very middle of your tongue and they kind of like rake it all out. There's like this, like you're chewing on an old box made of wood. But I did really like this. This had this like cherry skin, like tart black cherry skin, a little bit of an older desiccated apple pie, applesauce type thing, which my brain kind of kicked in there with the whole like, oh, you're allergic to this. But it was very enjoyable. I would probably rank that close, but probably still a 3. The D was like a 3.5 or 4 almost.
And what was your guess on this one?
So OBSV or K, and I think it was K that I was leaning towards in the end.
All right, so sample F is 3. 3 is OESQ.
You got the yeast again.
Jamie, this is your bottle. A 9-year, 3-month from a bourbon Scotch beer. I really like this one. I really got a kind of a Russell's vibe on this one. I thought this one was tasty.
So can I just point out real quick that we all were talking about the barrel tannins and the wood note, the dryness that initially I thought because the high ABV, this might be young, but then when I got all tannins, I was like, okay, this has got to be old, but it's still just like the rest of the bunch, like around 9 years, which is kind of interesting to note. So maybe a hotter position in the warehouse.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong here. Isn't all the Four Roses warehouse is only like 2 floors? I mean, they have higher, but not. Is it 1 floor?
Everything's
single floor rick houses.
They stack them up, but it's all 1 floor.
Yeah, I didn't read 1 or 2 floors. I'll take the correction. 1 floor. It's there's not a dramatic difference. This isn't a 7th floor versus a 3rd floor. But I really felt this one was a little bit older as well.
Lots of consistency in Four Roses, and let's. I mean, 9 years is not young. I mean, most people cap it off at 6. I mean, Buffalo Trace shoots for an 8-year profile, but that doesn't mean their stuff's 8 years old. 9 years is nothing to call young.
All right, we're moving on to sample G. Jamie, why don't you lead us off with sample G?
Oh, hopefully this is maybe I can get one right. Is that?
Let me make sure I'm correct here. We're 7 in, 3 of us. That's 21, and we've gotten one person on one of them correct.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Let's keep going.
The nose, I got sweet red fruit, cherries. Smells like a Four Roses Rickhouse, which again, Four Roses is so unique in their notes. And by that, there's a certain smell that comes from the barrels. This one I said is maybe too fruity. The palate, I put polish, like a floor polish, sweet fruity cherries. The finish falls flat, but adds a cinnamon burn to it. OESO. Oh, I got that one wrong because we've already called it.
Rainier?
Yeah, I had the exact same thing. I said very wide, sweet, fruity nose. Revisiting it now, I'm kind of seeing like red flower petals, like a rose thing going on. Light and floral at first on entry to mid palate, and then it really opens up on you, and kind of towards the end it gets like a dry straw. I was kind of getting a varnish thing, so funny you said that, Mr. Carpenter. Like a dry straw caramel, but then I got this purple flower petals again, like lavender or maybe some dried chamomile. I'm maybe not the best on my flowers, but very, very enjoyable. But the finish was kind of and my guess on this was OE. Oh, I can't remember what you had me down for. OESQ or something like that.
G, yeah, OESQ.
Okay, that's what I had. Yes.
All right. Well, I had a lot of those same notes. Caramel and brown sugar, vanilla, corn, cedar on the nose, a little bit of light pepper, stewed apples. I got some purple grapes again, and that herbal floral notes that I think we're all kind of association with Four Roses. All that on the nose, a really good nose. I got some sharp caramel, rich fruit, butterscotch, rye spice, vanilla, pretty viscous on the palate. I got the same polished oak that I think we're all talking about here. And on the finish, more rye spice, herbal spice, vanilla, stewed apples, caramel, baking spice, a little bit dry. I guess this was OBSO, and I gave it 3.5 out of 5.
Yeah, my score, I called it a 2.5 to 3. But we do have 2 O's in this one.
All right, so this is sample. What are we on? Sample G.
Oh, and Netherton, what color of grapes did you have in there?
Purple grapes. That was my Netherton reference.
Not a
G. It's exactly right. G is 10, and number 10 is OBSQ. We now have 2 correct. Is that right?
Mm-mm.
No? None
OE
right?
or OB?
That was OBSQ.
No, we're still. I mean, the Q, you got the yeast.
Oh, man, this is painful, guys. This is painful, but this is exactly what we expected. So,
you know what this is?
What's that?
This is delicious. That's what this is.
Yeah, buddy.
I'm so okay being wrong with this. All right, we're on H, gentlemen. H.
Oh yeah.
All right, I'm gonna lead H because I think we're gonna have some disagreement on this one. On the nose, I got stinky feet, vanilla, pear, apricot, plum. Palate, I felt was watered down vanilla, caramel, apricot. Finish, I got rye spice, vanilla bean. I got a little bit short, a hint of smoke and char at the tail end. I ultimately guess this one is OBSV, and I did not care for this one. This is one where we just kind of threw out there at the beginning before we started recording, just kind of as a sample of what we all thought. And we were all over the place on this one on scores, or at least I was the odd man out. So I'm curious what you guys have to say on this one.
Lead the way, Rainier.
Okay, so Scott, love you, but you're so wrong. My and I mean that in the best way possible. Literally my first note, because I'm still doing it now. The first time I had this, I was like, oh man, this smells great. This is Four Roses. This is phenomenal. This is caramel. For some reason, I can smell the cream on the nose. My first tasting note was, I want to smell at my house with this. Like this needs to be a spray.
Stinky feet.
No, there's no. It's rich. It's spicy. It's got a little bit of a bigger body. I'm getting these kind of, everything tastes a little bit older, or smells and tastes a little bit older. I'm getting that potpourri again. There's these like flower petals, but it's like old, dried, but they're nice and fragrant. Purple petals, not grapes. It's a little bit rosy, and there's this like medium long finish, and I'm getting that caramel, and it's just a fun ride. No stinky feet inside at all. And my guess sorry, my guess on it was OBSQ, which I believe Jamie had me down for.
Yeah.
Okay.
On this one, I've got sweet oak, light vanilla, easy sniffing nose, touch of cinnamon, very sweet. I got full body on the palate, as did Rainier. Bottle caps, sweet simple syrup, a very long finish with dark fruits. I put OESK. The nose, surprisingly, is the weakest of my scores on this one, because I went 3.5, 4.5, 4.5 on this.
You guys could not be more wrong on this.
No. I mean, this is 2 against 1. I'm sorry. This is how.
All right. H is number 1, and number 1 is OESF. Jamie, this is your bottle. 10 years, 7 months. We're not even close on these, guys.
What's funny is every time I've grabbed this bottle, it's been I don't think I like F, but man, this is really good and way out of character for an F. So
yeah. What was the year on that and the ABV?
10 years, 7 months.
Wow.
It's 53.8.
That is good, though. That is good. Maybe it's because both of our amazing experiences with Four Roses have been with OBSQs and O's.
All right, let's move on. We're on the final 2. We're now on I. All right, I'm gonna lead off I. On the nose, I've got creamy peppermint, caramel and brown sugar, honeycomb, vanilla, orange zest, polished oak. The palate is full flavored, rich brown sugar, sugar covered scones, vanilla and orange zest, sweet hot pepper. Finish is absolutely delicious. Baking spice, rye flavor, brown sugar. It's got lingering, creamy peppermint kind of flavors to it. I guess this was OESK, and I really liked it. Rainier.
Okay, so on I really had this. It's still there even when you just pour it. There's this like very fruity nose. It's almost like overripe tropical fruit to me. Like there's some like mango, pineapple, some very like hot exotic fruits. On the palate, it really has this full body to me. Again, lots of fruit. Some underripe now to me, or they're about to be ripe. Bananas. There's some wheat there, like some graininess. Spices. It came across as fresh, and then there was like a just a blip of like eucalyptus, mint, something green going on there for me too. And I was kind of going back and forth between saying it's OBSF or OESQ, and I'm totally wrong.
I think you're right with the OBSF. I'm sitting here nosing this. You called it Q, but I think it might be OBSF. So on the nose, I got buttery rye bread, smooth and creamy, more rye, mango. On the taste, heavy rye, vanilla, spice like clove or black pepper. Feel like this one is younger, exciting, lots of loud flavors and smells. 4, 3.5, 4.
And your guess?
What did I say? OESQ.
All right, this is I. I is 9, and 9 is OBSF.
Okay.
Jamie, this leaves you in last place, I believe.
No,
is this correct?
It's not right. No, it's not right. Don't call me last place. He called it OESQ or OESF. He called it Q. OBSF.
So he's celebrating for no reason. Is that what you're telling me?
I said, I think you're right. I think this could be OBSF, and he's celebrating because he did think that.
In my initial notes, I did say OBSF, OESQ.
It's reason to celebrate.
10 options. It could be one of these 10, and I'm going to get this one right.
Yeah, it's a buckshot.
All right, we're going into the last round here. This could tie us all.
No, this won't change anything. Let me tell you right now that the 3 that we guessed, you are the only one, Scott, that got one right. Now, Rainier did get one of our other additional ones right, but Scott, you were the only one that got one right.
Don't spoil the last round.
Let's not interrupt this.
Edit this out. All right, hey, let's get into sample J.
Okay.
Jamie, since you love to talk here, let's go in for your sample J. Come on. He's not even sitting down.
Apparently, I can't count. I only grabbed 9 glasses, so why don't you start it?
All right, I'm gonna start it. Sample J. I said the nose is very rye-like, herbal, ginger, caramel, sweet. It almost had like a wheated bourbon consistency to it, or smell to it. Vanilla wafer, light baking spice, all in the nose. Palate, spicy rye, ginger, caramel, vanilla, kind of herbal mint character. Almost like kind of like a mojito kind of note on the palate. The finish I got, it was a bit drying and shorter, a little bit chalky with chocolate, sharp rye, and that sharp rye kind of drops off pretty fast. I guess this was OBSF, and I really didn't care for this one.
Didn't care for as far as a 2.5, as far as a...
I said at the beginning that I think I'm a little bit harsh on these because I like them all.
I think so,
but I was
too.
really trying to categorize 4 roses and decide what I like best and worst. I gave it a 2 out of 5, but I can't say I'm less than satisfied on this. I would say on our normal scale, I'm probably a 3, but compared to some of these others, this was one of my least favorite.
I think it's and I kind of did the same thing. I kind of judged these all within the realm, within the scope of this is 4 roses. And trying this, I kind of had the same thing where I was like, I like this, but I know you guys can do better already. With this too, I kind of got, I was pretty basic and simple on these notes. I just said it's big, it's round, it's full. There's a little bit of a sharp spice. There's a little bit of fruit at the end, but nothing's really popping out at me. I'm getting a little bit of leather, getting a little bit of varnish, but there's no, the key marker of like, oh yes, this is 4 roses is really faint and it's kind of in the background and it's short-lived and it didn't do much for me. I was right there with you with like a 2 on this, on the J.
Yeah, so I got on the nose, these are not pleasant smells. I got mild soap smell, a little salt, On the second tasting, I got Mike and Ike and candy corn, weak flavor, vegetal, possibly an F, allspice, salted caramel, maybe an O. So obviously that's just my notes, but I called it an OESF, 2.5 to 3.
All right. Sample J is number 4, and number 4 is OBSO. This is 11 years.
OBSO, this is our oldest one, I think.
11 years, 1 month. That's exactly what I was going to say. 11 years, 1 month. No, we had.
OBSQ.
Was our OBSQ maybe a little earlier?
Yeah.
Little. Is this 11 years, 1 month? Jamie, you have this bottle there?
Yeah, I do. And our OBSF is, so the OBSQ is 11.1. I don't know if I showed these earlier. The OBSQ is 11.10.
Luckily, we can see the bottle because your O's and your Q's are you're not on. All right, that's the Q.
This is F.
OBSF. All right.
Yeah. So those are 3 that are all over 11 years.
Well, gentlemen, that's 10, and
Scott,
you all have 0%.
I think I got the most yeast right? I think.
I would be curious to see that final report because I think the yeast is pretty critical, and there's a couple of them that are fairly interchangeable, that are very close, that are very hard to tell the difference in. I would like to see the final results, and Jamie, maybe you and I can get on another time and talk about some like closing observations on this. I'm disappointed that we only got 1 right out of all of these. Let's for my own benefit, let's ignore the bonus ones, and let's just say we got 1 right. Honestly, I didn't think we'd get that many right. These are tough. They're all over the place, especially when you're throwing in, age varieties. There are different locations in the warehouse. It's going to be really tough to get these correct. But I tell you what, this was an awesome experience to go through all these different recipes. What do you guys think?
I think it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to go through 10. I had 3 extras that were, so that was 13. It's very hard to give it the same amount of attention with daily life when you're doing that many, and that's why it took us 6 months to get these to everybody. But even still, doing 3 or 4 at a time to try to get through them, they put each other into perspective, which helps things, but also it's a lot of bourbon to give scores to, because we're just giving scores and notes, but we're also trying to guess what mash bill and what yeast it was, which adds a whole nother difficulty to this. I encourage anybody who is a Four Roses fan to humble themselves and try to do this blind 10 out of 10, because I'm sure most of you will probably get more than our 1 out of 30, but it's fun.
This was quite an experience, and I agree. I was kind of trying to find the right days, right times, and that was kind of a struggle. And even going back through my tasting notes now, I'm kind of like, oh yeah, that day I really wasn't on it. And I bet if I'd done this a different day, I would have gotten different things out of it. I still think that we need to do a wild round here, maybe. But anyway, those extra 2. Anyway, it was a fun, in-depth study of Four Roses, which really piqued my interest. Very fascinated with Four Roses. Really like what they're doing. In general, both in the world of whiskey and wine, like the effect of yeast on taste is very, very interesting to me, and I really like how they're doing this. And even with the indicators, it's still, I mean, Point in case. It's a wild guessing game, and we suck. Yes.
It really is. And what I really appreciate about this whole experience of going on here with the two of you and going through your tasting notes is as you are describing what you were tasting and I'm sitting there smelling, I can understand where you're coming from. I know one time, Rainier, you were talking about tropical fruits, and I had down orange citrus. And as I'm going back to it, I can think, yeah, I can see where I would describe that as orange citrus, and I can see where someone else would describe that as the tropical fruits you're describing at the time with the mangoes or whatever it was you're describing. I mean, there's a lot of different descriptors for all these different flavors, and we're really rely upon what Four Roses themselves was putting together as sort of a flow chart. And this is not a simple science. I mean, even someone within within a brand of Four Roses with 10 different recipes can't recreate on every single barrel these individualized flavors. There's going to be so much nuance and so much carryover that is so much more broad that if one day you're super sensitive to the herbal and the spices, you may get something completely different to another day when you're really sensitive to caramels and vanillas. It's a crazy good experience. I'm not disappointed that we were wrong on so many occasions. It's a difficult task. I really enjoyed it. So, Rainier, anything else before we sign off on this?
I agree. This was a fun journey. I fully expected to get everything wrong, bonus rounds. But the looking back, the mash bills, the yeast, this was just fun. This was entertaining, and I think this is what bourbon, whiskey, alcohol in general should be all about. I would want to give a final shout out to Kent Grindinger, the representative in our area for Four Roses, Mr. Brent Elliott, and Jim Routledge, who should not be underestimated and thanked for all their amazing work here. And I want to thank you guys for having me here tonight as well. I appreciate you guys for doing this as well.
Well, thank you for joining us. This was it was great to have your palate involved with this, and interesting to see what take on some of these things you had. Jamie, what else do you have here?
Three palates that think their experience was humbled tonight, and I'm not disappointed by that, because I tell you, I pulled this kit, if you want to call it that, out on a lot of occasions, because I would do 3 and I'd do a third of the bottle, and I'd do 3 of a different one and a third of the bottle, and so it was a lot of occasions. And every time I pulled it out, one of my thoughts was, why do I drink anything other than Four Roses? Because it is so good. That is one thing that I can't say enough times, that Four Roses is doing something right, or was, and hopefully is continuing to do something right, because obviously these are 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. To anyone who is a subscriber or follows our Flight Club page, if you have the Freak or the Mutated V yeast and you want us to add that in there, and you can send us that, I think me and Scott would gladly take one of those. If you're a Four Roses fan, you know what I'm talking about. But other than that, I don't have much to say other than thank you for watching, and hopefully we kept you entertained and humbled.
Humbled is absolutely right. As we went through this, I texted you guys several times that I was 100% convinced that I was 100% correct on every one of these, when in all honesty, we all knew we were out there and we had no idea exactly what we were picking and whether we'd be right on any of them. And sure enough, we're basically wrong across the board. Humbling experience, great experience. Thank you guys for joining us. This is a unique video, as I mentioned earlier. We are not going to have a full write-up with all these scores and all these tasting notes on our blog, because as we mentioned, we're kind of just comparing Four Roses themselves, and I think some of our scores may not be quite accurate to reflect what we really thought about it. But I hope you enjoy this video, and if you want to go out there and try your own blind sampling, use this as an example, and maybe hopefully you score better than we do, and you feel pretty good about yourselves. But anyway, we're going to sign off. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. We'll catch you next time. Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you.